Hello, dear chess enthusiasts, and welcome back to our exciting journey through the world of chess. In today's video, I have brought with me a game of the very strong Grandmaster Fedoseev against the international master Riebstein, played in the current European Club Championship, which is also sometimes called the Champions League of Chess, or at least the European Champions League of Chess. And what Fedoseev does in this game is he employs a rare idea in the modern defense from the white side and just crushes black in a couple of moves. So let's plunge straight into the heart of the action. White plays first c4, black plays g6, and white plays e4, bishop g7, and now black shows that he's ready to go into some sort of King's Indian setup, d4, d6. And now white chose to play a very interesting move, but before we go into this, I want to show you a particular line. So let's say white just decided to go knight f3. Then black could follow up with bishop g4, bishop e2, and the idea of black is to fight for this d4 square, hence bishop g4, because it's threatening the knight on f3. Then knight c6, putting even more pressure on this pawn. So now it's twice attacked and twice defended, but one of the defenders is actually threatened. So white should defend either the defender with knight to d2, or the pawn with bishop e3. Now it has 3 defenders, only 2 attackers, and 1 defender is attacked, but it doesn't matter because the pawn is overprotected. So therefore black could follow up with e5, and now white should play d5, and after this move black could take on f3, white takes on f3 with the bishop, and now knight to d4, and this position might be a little bit unpleasant. The engine says that it's okay, but humans tend to make mistakes in such positions. Therefore the score isn't that bad for black here. So let's go back. Now we know what white might want to avoid, and therefore white decided to go knight to e2. All the issues gone with the bishop to g4 ideas, because there's always f3. So therefore black plays knight to f6, attacking the e4 pawn, and now white has to decide if he wants to defend the e4 pawn with the knight on b1, or play like in the game, knight e to c3, which scores much better than the other move. So black castled, white plays bishop e2, and here it's very important to understand that probably black should not follow blindly the idea of the bishop g4 line where the knight is on f3, as we have seen earlier. But there is a game by Alexander Grishuk, a very strong Russian grandmaster, and he played knight to c6 and didn't lose the game. So an achievement, especially if you're playing the black side. A little bit earlier, the current world champion Ding Liren played knight f to d7 with the idea of playing e5 and question the center, probably forcing d5. However, black decided to play knight to c6. White pushed the pawn, d5, knight to e5, and now we can see there is no knight on f3, which could be exchanged. So black might face some issues. White castled, and black played c6. And so far, both players are following the game Ponomarev against Grishuk, which I've mentioned earlier. So white plays h3, and now black took on d5 with c takes d5. And this is probably not a good move because it gives up the control over the c4 square. And in these positions, in these structures, with exactly this pawn structure, the c4 square is incredibly important. If a white knight shows up on c4, black might have trouble. So therefore, black should have played something like e6. But let's see what happens in the game. C takes d5, c takes d5 as mentioned. White could also claim some advantage after e takes d5, but he went c takes d5, which might be a little bit more clear. So e6, and now it's very important to understand this move, and it's very easy to understand this move. The knight on e5 is controlling the c4 square, so therefore white plays f4 now, forcing the knight back to d7, and now white takes on e6, and an intermediate move by black, queen to b6 check, king h2, and f takes e6. And now the idea which I have just said is played. Knight to a3, and the knight might go to c4 or b5. Black plays knight to c5, and white just follows his plan, knight to c4. And after queen c6, white decided not to take on d6 with the queen, because after knight f takes e4, queen takes c6, b takes c6, white has an advantage, but it's not that big. It's bigger in the game, where white just played e5, threatening the knight on f6, and also this d6 pawn. So therefore black exchanged once with d takes e5, and white recaptured the pawn with knight takes e5. So in only 3 moves, this knight went from the rather bad b1 square to the e5 square. And he moved the knight only 3 times. So this is quite an accomplishment, especially because the knight was developed so late, in the 14th move. And now in the 17th move, it's already on e5. And it's attacking the queen. So it's with tempo. The queen has to move. Queen c7. And now white attacks the knight on c5. And the idea is that after the game move rook d8, white has knight to b5, and taking on d1 doesn't work so well because of knight takes c7, and let's say rook takes a1, rook takes a1. The rook is attacked and this knight is undefended, so this does not work. Therefore black played queen to a5, but white had the very strong move queen to c1, and now this knight is attacked twice, and also there's some pressure on c7. So the knight moved to a6. If the knight moved to d7, white could have played bishop d2, queen b6, and now knight to c7 with a very unpleasant position. So for example, knight takes e5, knight takes a8, the queen is attacked. Very important. Queen d6, attacking the bishop on d2, f takes e5, and this move is basically forced and white is completely winning. If black decided to take here, probably just take, and now white again is completely winning after pawn takes f6, rook takes e2, and f takes g7. So let's go back to the game. So therefore knight a6 was played, also covers the c7 square, but white has just this a3 move, and after knight d5, bishop to d4, knight d to c7, trying to exchange something here. White had b4, which he could have played one move earlier, but it's still very strong. So queen a4, and after knight takes c7, you see that the queen is completely out of the game. So white takes on c7, the rook takes on d4, and white plays rook a d1. And what white is basically doing is he's capitalizing on the fact that black is not developed at all. This knight on c8 is blocking the rook. So black has issues on the back rank. Black took on e5, pawn takes e5, f takes e5, and after queen d7, black followed with the very beautiful queen c5, and very easy, threatening mate, and there is no way black can avoid the loss of material, because rook d8 would be answered with rook takes d8 check, and there is basically no other way to avoid the mate. King g7, queen f8 mate. I hope you liked the game and the video as usual, and I was very fascinated by this knight e2 idea, so let me know what you think about it. So see you in the next video. Bye.